Join us for various demonstrations by local volunteers hosted by the Laurentian Valley 50 Plus group that inspire a zest for life. You may learn how to bake coffee cake, pile your wood, make gnomes, or learn how not to get lost in the woods. Welcome to Laurentian Valley 50 Plus Coffee Connect.
G'day, eh? I'm Liz. Some people call me crazy. Some people call me brave for going wilderness canoe camping by myself. To be brave, though, I think you have to have something to be afraid of, and I don't feel fear, so I can't claim any bravery because I'm just never afraid. Maybe that's where the crazy comes in. I'm not sure. So people ask me, why do I go alone? But I don't always go alone. Sometimes my husband, Doug, comes with me. Kind of dragged him on a few. Sometimes even some of my kids have come with me, even again. So and where do I go? Oh, I have a friend who tells, I also go canoe camping. I used to be a judo teacher in Pembroke, ran a club there, and I've taught judo in Waterloo and Kitchener for 25 years almost. And my judo buddy from Waterloo comes canoe camping with me once a year as well. She tells me I should explain the difference between river canoe camping and lake canoe camping, but to have a good trip, you have to have a combination. I've only been going in Algonquin Park so far, and like from the northeast and the northwest and the center, and I've accessed many points so far. This year I hope to get to north of Temagami, so that'll be a new adventure. Usually I go I usually take about 4 canoe trips every summer, and I started way too late. That's why the title of my book says, If I Canoe It, So Canoe, because I should have started, 50 years ago, but should start when you're 25 maybe, but I started when I'm 65, so you guys can do it too, right? I try to go for a spring trip. I like to go in spring when the bugs are out because there's not too many people. And last year I went on an 8-day solo canoe trip in June, and for 7 of the 8 days I saw nobody. Nobody. It was so peaceful. So a lot of my spring trips involve crossing 10 lakes, 2 rivers, and 10 portages, and who knows how many beaver dams, which are always fun to climb over. So how do I go? I paddle the lakes and the rivers and the portages. A lot of people don't know what portaging is. And so it's a path through the bush, either from one lake to another lake or from one part of the river to another part of the river, and it's usually around a waterfall or rapids or just a swampy area where you can't paddle. And it's not a nice little hiking path. It's over rocks and roots and sucky muck. And Doug always says, be careful to not fall. Well, good luck with that. I was going through this one swampy area. There was no way to get around this deep, ankle-deep, black, sucky muck. And I'm walking with my 45-pound backpack. First I go over the portage with my backpack. Then I go over with my canoe and a smaller backpack. And going through the black, sucky muck, I slipped and ended up upside down with the pack stuck in the muck, and I look like an upside-down turtle. Nobody was there to video me, so it would have been really good. But I had to climb out of the backpack and then get up, and because there was no way I could get up with it on, and then struggle to get it on. But then I had to go back and get the canoe, and I'm going to be really careful going the second time, but I went down again. So the portages can be really tricky. So when I get to there we go. Doug's carrying my canoe on this trip. But that just kind of shows, yes, up and down, over rocks and roots, and And there's a sign, a big yellow sign at the beginning of the portage and the end telling how long it is. But it feels way longer than it says. A short, hard one can feel longer than a long, flat, level one, which there's hardly any level ones. But yeah, there's beautiful waterfalls on most of the portages I've gone on, and it's just beauty everywhere. So I paddle a river, climb over beaver dams, take pictures of waterfalls, and get to the campsite. I gotta find a campsite. There's usually an orange sign saying campsite, and that's not always easy to see. You get to the lake and you look out at the lake and you have a map. I'm pretty good at reading maps, but it says there's a peninsula out there and there's an island over there. And when you get looking at the lake, it's just blue and green, and you can't see where there's an island or a peninsula. It's just all green. Usually if you're crossing that lake and going to the next portage, you can see where it's a kind of a dip in the V, and that's probably where the portage is. No guarantees. But to find a campsite, first thing I do is put up a tarp, because it's probably raining. I've started almost all my canoe trips in rain gear. And so one time I was actually sunny, and I do YouTube videos, so Doug's videoing me when I'm taking off on my trip, and I said, look at me, I'm now wearing rain gear. So the first thing I do is to put up my tarp, put everything underneath it. Usually, or maybe the first thing I do is to look for the thunderbox. We'll find it. Thunderbox is a box with a lid, on a hinged lid. You lift the lid and there's the hole. It's like a outhouse without walls. It's usually down a path, so you're nice and secluded, but not always. We were camped on an island once, and it was a beautiful campsite, a view of the lake, and the thunderbox was on the highest point of the island with a beautiful view of the whole lake. Luckily, we saw nobody that time. That was pretty good. Yeah, there's new ones like the last picture, and that was a lovely one I found. You see the tree narrowly missed destroying it altogether. So after that, I set up then I make coffee. I gotta have some coffee when I get there. And then I'll make lunch and set up the rest of my gear. I don't bring a tent, I bring a hammock. So I sleep under the tarp in a hammock, and I can see everything. Like a tent, you have the tent fly, you can't see anything. You're lying in a hammock, you can see everything. It's just beautiful. Okay, that's another job I have to do, is to look for a tree with a branch that I can store my food up in the tree overnight. You have to protect your food. So I have to look for a branch that's strong enough to hold my pack, and I have to get the rope over it in the right spot so it's not too close to the tree trunk or not close to other trees or not too close to the ground, because the bear can't be able to reach it. So to get the rope over the branch, I bring an old sock. And you always find odd socks at home, right? I don't know how that happens. So I get a little fist-sized rock, put the rock in the sock, tie the sock to the rope, and fling it over the branch. But okay, you go into the bush anywhere, you try to find a branch that's gonna work. It's hard. It's either way too high or there's too many branches and you'll never get it over the right branch and it'll get stuck up there. I've got a few rock socks stuck up in a lot of trees. I bring a few socks because they're going to get stuck. One time it was phenomenal. I'm not a baseball pitcher, so it takes me many tries to get it actually over where I want it. I'll fling it and it'll go back there. I don't know how that happens. I fling it and the rock hits the branch and comes straight back at me. It's crazy. So one time it went up and around, and bring extra rope. I bring a lot of extra rope. So after I've got all that, then some of my food, I get dehydrated food. It's really light, and I'm vegan, so it's all vegetables, and hopefully that won't attract bears. I've never seen a bear on a trip, and I always bring and wear a whistle. Now, somebody said bear spray, but you have to make sure the bear is downwind. Okay, wait, bear, wait. So bear spray or wasp spray sometime, but you got to make sure the wind, so you don't want to get it yourself. Whistle works. No creature likes a loud noise, and a metal whistle can be crazy loud. And you can use it for signaling for help if you needed that too. But after you're set, this is my water purification. There's many ways to purify your water. For this is SteriPen. It's ultraviolet light. So first I sink the water bottle with a filter on it into the lake and filter the water. Then I use the SteriPen, and for 2 minutes it waves around. You wave it around in the water, and you've got clean, purified water. So, and that's pretty easy. There's many different ways to purify water, but I found that's easiest. I just, kind of have to be really careful that it doesn't break. Or just a sample of the food I bring. So after setting, yeah, there we go, relax. After setting up camp, I want to look for wood to keep I do a lot of cooking on a little propane stove, but I also cook a lot of meals on the fire. And, you got to have s'mores, right? But, yeah, it's you set up the camp, and unfortunately, I find a lot of garbage, so I'm collecting other people's garbage to bring out with me. I try to clean up the site, make it look a little better by cleaning out the fire pit or building up the stones around the fire pit. I collect wood for me and for the next people. And yeah, so there's beauty. Some people ask me, why do I go wilderness camping? But there's just beauty everywhere. Everywhere I look, I see beauty. In the spring, there's the spring flowers. Any time of year, there's mushrooms, toadstools. I have a fascination with toadstools, and I take a lot of pictures. This was Big Crow Lake, just north of Lake Opeongo. There's a lookout trail you can climb up. That was a good hike. But yeah, there's just so much beauty everywhere. And the view from the campsites are gorgeous too. And the spring, everything is so vibrant green. It's just, just beauty everywhere. I'm just overwhelmed with it. I have to talk about my book, I guess. Give you a little sample of it. The uniqueness of everything, like all the critters are unique, all the toadstools, every leaf on every tree, on every flower is totally unique. It's like they say snowflakes are all unique. And you can't find two leaves in the fall that are identical. It's just phenomenal. So this I'm reading from my book has a bunch of little short stories of different camping adventures, starting with in a cabin, if you can call that camping, I don't know. So this short story is called, What Are the Odds? As I had 3 nights camping. It was a short trip, and all 3 nights was a thunderstorm. What are the odds of that? The morning drizzle forced me to wear my ugly rain gear yet again. Oh, bother. I packed up at 9 a.m., and I did not hurry to leave this peaceful beauty. The wind at my back did not worry me. No other travelers could be seen on my paddle back to Brent Campground. As I approached the end of my trip, I remembered something essential. When you leave from a new area to which you will return, it is helpful to turn around and study the shoreline to see what it looks like. Because it doesn't look the same. I paddled past what I thought would be the last peninsula and could still see no parking lot, no Brent Campground. Did I somehow pass it? I stayed close to shore, so that couldn't be possible. But surely it had to be close. I felt like I'd traveled so far down this huge cedar lake. Of course, the wind increased and the drizzle continued again. I rounded another point and finally found my destination. I slid onto the beach as another family prepared to start their adventure. With my gear stowed under the picnic table, I dug out my tiny umbrella and lunch and waited for Doug to pick me up. A couple tried to contain their excitement of their young dog as they loaded lots of gear onto their canoe. Their two little girls danced up and down the beach looking for pretty stones. They all beamed with excitement. I felt so honored when my new young friends shared their tiny treasures with me. I love stones too. The unique beauty in everything, including stones, and every person astounds me constantly. So people ask me if I ever, going solo canoeing, if I ever get lonely, since I'm alone. But I'm never alone. I've always got lots of company with me. Last year I was on a campsite that had a huge, massive, big, old stone fireplace. And on the vent side of the stone fireplace was a nest with triplets, baby squirrels. They were so entertaining. So I on that trip is the trip I saw nobody for 7 days, but the squirrels entertained me, and there's always, almost always a chipmunk ready to welcome you at every new campsite. Some people go canoe camping on a trip, and they like go from place to place to place over many portages, and portages are killers, you know. I pick short trips with short portages if I can. And I don't, oh, there we go. Big snapper turtle and laid the eggs right beside my canoe. Yeah, it's fast. Everything is just fascinating and beautiful. Some people go on trips and they just find a spot and stay in that one camp, paddle to a spot and stay there for a few days. Yeah, he got too close. He stole the peanut butter knife and took off with it. And silly me, I caught it, but brought it back and left it where he could get it again. I had to chase it twice. Guess who was smarter? People also ask me if I'm afraid of the dark, and I'm not. It's just so quiet and so peaceful. Except one time, I heard a really weird noise, and it was really close. But I realized it was my stomach. At this camp, on this trip, I had a young bull moose walk right through my campsite. There he is. He was curious about me. And I luckily had my camera with me, and I took a step towards him, and he took off. This is such a huge creature. It's scared of me. I don't know. But the dark, yeah, I'm not afraid of the dark. I was lying there, and it's totally, if there's no moon or if it's cloudy and you can't see anything, open my eyes, and I don't know if my eyes are open because it is so black. So I always keep a flashlight close by to find my way to the thunderbox in the middle of the night. But the night sky is phenomenal if there's clear sky and you can see the stars. It's so beautiful. The one night I was lying there and it is so dark, and I lifted my head, sat up a little in my hammock so I could see more out. And I was actually felt like I was transported out into the universe because I felt like I was surrounded by the stars. And they were twinkling, but it was fireflies. It was phenomenal. 100 fireflies right around me. One morning I woke up and a hummingbird thought I must be pretty interesting because he came to within a foot of my hammock where my head was to try and figure out who I was. It's their home, I'm just the visitor. So I have another quote for you. My son and his buddy came with for a trip, and they were both truck drivers, and his buddy's like 6'5" and big muscular guy, and took them on a trip. And they Stephen is not wanting to go on a trip where there's not a shower, but he managed to come on a 2-night canoe trip with me, twice actually, which was fun. But him and his buddy came with, and this is a short story. I wrote this story from my son's point of view, so it's not me talking. The next day we were blessed with warm sunshine again. The bright morning sunlight bounced on the water as we paddled around the lake to the south and glided by tall cliffs along the shoreline and around a point to the shallow grassy bay, hoping to see some wildlife. I guess bullfrogs are wild, but they don't evoke the same excitement as the moose we anticipated, the moose we never saw. After lunch, curiosity took us exploring again by canoe up to the northwest end of the lake, wandering along the shoreline to see what the other campsites looked like. Most were vacant, and all appeared level and appealing areas. We heard a loon call again and again. Searching the lake, we finally saw the loon not far from us. Mom and Dad had started across the lake and loop back to our campsite again, but Ed and I coasted slowly towards the beautiful bird and saw a tiny fuzzball on her back. She kept calling her long call and slowly moved away from us. We stopped so we could continue watching without scaring them away. Soon her calls were answered and her mate flew in and gracefully landed beside her. The baby slid from one parent and quickly climbed up onto the other. Amazing. The family moved away from us, so we parted ways and caught up with my parents. We will never forget that moment of peace and beauty. Back at our campsite, Mom started supper, and we gathered wood for the evening's marshmallow roast. Suddenly, we all froze as a sound from behind us, deeper into the forest. Well, we three men froze, because Dad was with too. Mom never feels fear, and this didn't faze her at all. What noise? Oh, maybe a beaver took a tree down. I'm thinking, or some bigger creature? Curiosity got the better of my buddy and me, so we took off on a little hike into the forest behind our camp, making enough noise, talking, so of course we saw no wildlife, thankfully. Not long after, Mom had to take the hike up to the Thunderbox, and we all wondered, what about that noise we heard? We silently cheered when she re-emerged from the tiny trail. But she did have a story of wildlife encounter. She calmly recounted, I raised the lid of the Thunderbox and was just about to sit when I saw a tiny mouse run across the front edge of the seat. I had to tell him to hurry on his way because I didn't want to sit on him. My mom is not afraid of anything. Weird, right? In shock, Ed explained, if that had been me seeing that mouse, I would have screamed like a 12-year-old girl. My mom laughed so loud at this. My mom laughs embarrassingly loud. So why do I go? I love a challenge. I guess at my age, and I hate using that word, I should pick an easier challenge like golf, but I'm sorry. For me, golf is like watching paint dry. It's just, sorry, I'm sorry. But I do like a challenge, and I have had a bunch of challenges on my canoe trips. I could tell you many stories. On one canoe trip, I was, Doug had warned, I bring a satellite phone because then Doug doesn't have to worry. I can tell him I'm still alive. And so he had warned me there was a thunderstorm coming the next day, which was my last day. So I got up really early in the morning and started off my trip, and it was already getting windy. Crossed a big lake, did a long paddle down a long river, and when I got to the biggest lake that I had to cross to meet Doug, it was crazy windy. And so I'd already been paddling for 2 hours, and I was tired, did a couple of portages, and I get to this lake and just see like white caps practically coming at me. So I'm crossing, and because of the wind, I had to paddle only on one side. Usually I paddle for 10 minutes on one side and then the other side, because I canoe traditionally with a canoe paddle. But I could only paddle on one side, and non-stop, because if I stopped, the wind would push me back. So I had to paddle really hard for over an hour straight. And that was, I guess, the only time I've been afraid. Not because of the wind or the waves. I swim like a mermaid, not a fish. And I wasn't worried about that, or tipping or anything. With the gear in my canoe, I'm pretty stable. But what I was afraid of was being too tired to eat lunch. So, and why do I go alone? It's for the peace and the beauty. Then you can just sit there and enjoy the peace. Most of the time we're got walls around us and we're separated from life. When we're outside, we're in life. We're surrounded by life. And when I go canoe camping in my hammock, then I'm always surrounded by all this life, and I think it's invigorating and rejuvenating. And the beauty and the peace of everything just astounds me. And I believe that if we're out in creation, we can be closer to the Creator. Have a couple more quotes. One of the original canoe camping gurus was Bill Mason For nature is part of the glorious fullness of God's creation, no less than man. I look around me at the colors and textures and designs. It's like being in an art gallery, and God is the artist. And now, ask the beasts, and they will teach you, and the birds of the air, and they will tell you. Or speak to the earth, and it will teach you, and the fish of the sea will explain to you. Who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this, in whose hand is the life of every living thing and the breath of all mankind? There we go. If I canoe it, so canoe. Thank you. They're beautiful to paddle in. There's rocky shorelines and rocky cliffs all the way. There's only 3 campsites on this lake, and it was hard to choose because they're all beautiful. But I think I got a good one. So I gotta throw some more little sticks on my fire, get my water boiling. Oh, it's just, I'm, itching to go for a swim. I want my coffee. I want to hang up my tarp or find that branch. I might find some luck with the branches over in that tree over there. I don't know. We'll see. Fun adventure. Beautiful lake. The only trouble is there's a 2-kilometer portage from the parking lot into the lake. Doug helped me. Oh, I'm so thankful. What a good man. Pretty dark now. Already had supper. Everything's packed under the tarp because it's been raining. Guess you can see the bugs too. It was so hot this afternoon. Went for a little quick swim around that island and climbed all over the island. So beautiful. Finally got my rope over the branch and everything's put away. It's gonna rain again, I guess.